anyone who's joining late. Hello, back to Irish Football Fan TV. This week in Irish football, we're going to take a look at Ireland, how they got on over the last week. Obviously, in the UEFA Nations League, two defeats at home, both games 2-0 against England and Greece. We're going to talk about Hallgrimsson. We're going to talk about the fact that Troy Parrott got no minutes in those games, despite probably being our fittest striker in terms of had been playing at his club throughout pre-season, and obviously then the league had started a little bit earlier. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about some of the players abroad and the FAI Cup quarterfinals and the draws that were made, and then of course the worrying times at Dundalk. So we'll start off with I suppose Ireland, and get involved in the comments there. Don't forget to get involved in the comments as well. But yeah, basically what it is, Hallgrimsson, there's a lot of doubt out there now after watching the last game for Ireland, and just the fact that he let John O'Shea pretty much handle everything from his point of view, like in terms of the press conferences, the pre-match, the squad even. Yeah, just look, it wasn't great. Our midfield wasn't great. There was a gaping hole in the middle there, which Josh Cullen normally fills. That was just not filled, and that's not to say Josh Cullen is the answer or anything like that. It's just that when Josh Cullen, there's no one that can play that Josh Cullen role, and that was evident by the game last week. The two games last week is that we had no one to come in and play in that sitting role. And I expected to be beaten by England, so that was always going to be on the cards. So I'm not really I'm not surprised by the England loss, but the Greeks loss, that is a game where I think with some tactical nous and a bit of I wouldn't say passion's the wrong word, but I think with a bit more of a focus, I think we would have got a better result there. I mean, it seems like Hallgrimsson's just kind of testing out things and seeing how everybody's kind of getting on, and then he's going to do it his way once he kind of, I think that would be after the UEFA Nations League, and myself and Tom did the final word the other night, and he made a really good point on Hallgrimsson, and are we really going to afford him to lose all the UEFA Nations League games? And that's not to say we won't beat Finland, but we'll be hoping that we can. But is he going to lose all of those games, and then we're going to go, okay, well, all right, we've put that behind us. Now it's time to focus on because those games, you can use them towards qualification, playoffs, and so on, for the World Cup and stuff like that. So the fact of the matter is, we've obviously got 2 losses under our belts, and we want to be, I suppose, competing for that second spot in the group. But it looks as though we'll be competing for the third with Finland, and we'd be looking to even do that. Greece beat Finland 3-0, so it's hard to kind of look at what team that they're going to have. And in regards to us, then obviously the last time we played Finland, I'm pretty sure they beat us twice when we were in the same Nations League group. So yeah, anyway, that's on Ireland. We have a break from Irish football in terms of the national team until October, in about 3 weeks' time, and then it'll be again back to that time of Will Hallgrimsson. There's a lot of talk of him not going to matches, and a lot of fans aren't happy with the fact that he's not going to matches. He's not going to try and watch players or meet players and talk to players at games. So yeah, he seems to be using data-driven websites to keep up with our players, which I think is a bit odd. But look, that's the way he does things. So look, I can't knock it really till we see what results that will come from in the future, because that's been his first camp. Let's move on from that. Just in terms of obviously Irish players, and Troy Parrott didn't get a minute of those games, which I find bizarre, because you look at the result, like you look at the games before Hallgrimsson came in, and obviously Troy Parrott scored our last goal at the Aviva against Hungary to win the game. And he came off the back of a really good season with Excelsior and a really good end of season form there, which earned them the move to AZ Alkmaar. And then for him not to be playing and not to be considered for the 2 games was a bit bizarre, considering Evan Ferguson is a top striker, we know, but the fact of the matter is he wasn't fit, and we needed him to be fit and firing, because then we know we can pretty much start. But the fact of the matter is he looked off it, as did most of our strikers that came on, even Callum Robinson, which is surprising that Callum Robinson came on ahead of Troy Parrott, giving that Troy had scored our last goal, as I said. So, yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre one in my opinion. Troy went out last night and scored 4 goals against Heronveen, against Robin Van Persie's Heronveen. 4 really nice strikes, a couple of strikes where he got across the defender and met the ball and just put it into the net. A couple of times where he got the ball on the half turn, received and finished, both right foot and left foot finishes. Really, really good goal scorer. And I know it's the Eredivisie and people will criticise that, but the fact of the matter is we have a player who is scoring goals in one of Europe's leagues, and scoring 4 goals in any game is a really good achievement in my book. And not many players do score 4 goals in their career, never mind um, in the Eredivisie. So look, is Troy Parrott the answer going forward? I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do think that if you have players who are scoring or in good form, they need to be considered. And I appreciate he hadn't been scoring before that, but he had a really good pre-season where he had been scoring in goals and he was feeling confident. And he was unlucky with a couple of goals with AZ, I think, and I think VAR ruled out a goal and stuff like that. Now look, his first goal last night was an absolute tap in, but it doesn't matter because all you need is the service to then get your tap in. But I think Troy is our most informed striker. For him to get no minutes is absolutely bizarre, but I'm actually happy to see him start to kind of live up to the hype a little bit from when he was younger, because I think a lot of people wrote him off very quickly, forgetting that he's still quite a young man and he's still finding his way, and he's still finding his way in life, not just as football or in football. So I think Troy Parrott now, I really hope this kickstart his season and his career properly, and I hope that he can become a number 9 for AZ, and he's loved by the fans and he's a cult hero. You saw the great scenes of the fans afterwards singing "Parrott's on Fire." And he seems to be really taken in well by the AZ fans. So that's what we want to see. We want to see our Irish players go abroad and be cult heroes in these clubs, and really make a name for themselves and really do well, because that will then reflect on the national team if they can do well at their clubs. And then we'll be hoping that they can come in and bring in their form to the national team. Far too often we've had players who aren't playing at their clubs, and now we have a player who's scoring at his club. So I want to see him in the next, if he's fit, provided, I want to see him in the next squad, and I want to see him in the next starting 11 if his form keeps up the way it is. I know it's one game, but as I said, he's had a strong pre-season and he's had a good start to the season with AZ, and he's looked sharp. So that's why it's very surprising for me that he didn't get on and get any minutes in the last international window. I just thought that was a very strange one. On to then Connor Salmon. He hardly any of our Irish players scored over the weekend, so bear with me on that one. Connor Salmon's still scoring. He scored in a 2-2 draw with Alloa and Inverness. Ronan Coughlin scored in a 3-2 win for Fleetwood over Carlisle in League 2. And CJ Hamilton scored in a 2-1 win for Blackpool over Exeter. So not a whole lot in terms of the Irish abroad to bring you this week. Alameda had a goal disallowed, and Jake O'Brien did make a Premier League debut for Everton. So that's kind of like the biggest talking points of the week across the border there, across the pond, whatever way you want to say it, the Irish abroad. So yeah, it's Jake O'Brien, he came on, I think it was 2-2 when he came on for Everton against Villa. Looked like he was struggling a little bit with the pace of play, because he hasn't been playing, and it's the fastest league in the world, so they say. So I think he's going to take a bit of time, a couple of months, just to get up to speed and get used to things, and I think he'll be fine. I think he'll have a really good season. The fact of the matter is, Everton needs to take Michael Keane out of the team. They need to bring Jake in there. They also need to bring Jared Branthwaite back, but that's not an Irish matter. Seamus Coleman should be back next week for them as well. Matt Doherty played a few minutes today for Wolves in their 2-1 loss to Newcastle as well. So not really great news in terms of the Premier League and Irish footballers this week. Quite frustrating actually, but look, it is what it is. We can only report on what's actually out there. But in the FAI Cup, in domestic matters, the quarterfinals were yesterday, and Derry City beat Shelbourne 2-0. A deserved win for Derry City. Michael Duffy with the goals and Danny Mullen there as well. Along were beaten 4-1 by Drogheda. Douglas James Jr. with 2 goals there. Ryan Brennan and Adam Foley completed the scoring for Drogheda, and Dean Ebb scored for Athlone. I think Jack Heaney got sent off as well for Drogheda in that one. He'll be missed for the next round. Bowes beat UCD 4-0 at the UCD Bowl. Ross Tierney with 2 goals. Alex Grieve and Martin Miller with the goals there. And then Wexford beat Treaty United 4-1. Thomas Alua with a double. Divin Isamala with a double as well. And then Tripamir Verlichak with Treaty's goal there to make it 4-1 to Wexford. But big talking points, obviously, there. Derry's big one. That could be a really psychological win for them in terms of the league title with Shelbourne. Shelbourne still 4 points ahead with 7 games to go. The League of Ireland is really hotting up in that sense, especially the top and also in the bottom. Now, some news just came out there in the last hour in regards to Dundalk, and I'm just going to go into an article that was posted on the Irish Mirror by Mark McCadden, and it's from Stephen McGuinness, who's the I think he's the chairman, no, he's the president of the PFAI. He came out and said he was speaking at the FAI AGM in Slorgan on Saturday when he was speaking about Dundalk and obviously their financial situation. There's a lot of talk that they could go bust, and he said, one, the work done by the league office in the last couple of weeks is greatly appreciated. It's 12 years since we've had a club go out of business. It's 7 years since we had a pay issue, which was Bray Wanderers. So we've had a really good time in the League of Ireland. In my time, 15 years in it, the first number of years were difficult. The issue we see right now, Dundalk, is that I personally think the club within the next couple of weeks could go out of business, and it's a serious, serious problem. I look around and some people seem to think it's going to be saved, but I don't see that. At this moment in time, there are no wages for the players next week. I've written to the board. I wrote to Tony Keown, FAI chairman, last week, and I acknowledged his response to come and meet. But with the horse bolted at this stage, some of the things that we need to fix here, and I've put the things in writing to the board, that the ownership test isn't robust enough. We need to designate a unit in the finance department to look at how the finances of our clubs are managed. In the Northern Ireland Football League up the north, they have a separate company to look after this. At some point, we need to get owners to put money into an escrow, at least 50% of the players' salaries, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Just to give a background, the players at this club on average earn the national living wage. There's nobody here on €100,000 contracts. I think it is incumbent on the current board to have an independent inquiry into how the club has gotten into this trouble and to ensure it doesn't happen again. Obviously, Brian Ainscough has come out during the week and explained that there is real trouble there. And John Fallon in the last hour for the Irish Examiner. I'm just trying to get that. Excuse me. Hopefully this will give us access. I'm not sure it will. Yeah, it's a full article there. Dundalk and Last Chance Saloon's table, chaos looms. It's understandable Brian Ainscough's efforts to offload his ownership amid a cash flow crisis are floundering, with a consortium led by fellow US businessman Jeff Saunders withdrawing their interest over the weekend. Dundalk face a critical 24 hours to avoid trading being ceased, with their potential withdrawal from the league having consequences in the race for the title and European spots. It's understand that Brian Ainscough's efforts to unload his ownership amid a cash flow crisis are floundering, with a consortium led by US-based businessman Jeff Saunders withdrawing their interest over the weekend. The club were forced to release a statement on Sunday night when a message on a bogus account referred to closure. And they said, we're fully aware of the rumours and false information that is circulating on social media. Our owner is in discussions with different groups domestically and overseas. The next 24 hours is a critical time for the club, and we hope that we can get a deal done that keeps us going forward. We'll keep everyone updated with any developments. Meetings on Monday morning will confirm either impeding receivership or a last-ditch rescue. Our third straight defeat at Waterford on Friday left John Daly's side bottom of the table with 6 games left, but the club could be wound up before Saturday's trip to Sligo Rovers. If that's the case, the likelihood is there 30 results being expunged. One immediate repercussion is Derry City leapfrogging leader Shelbourne into the top spot by a point. Other potential buyers have been hovering but the mounting debts arising from Ainscott's takeover last December have left the only option of survival and entrance into the SCARP, Small Company Administrative Rescue Process. That's a 49-day salvage scheme established in 2021 for insolvent companies, similar to examinership, but specifically for entities with 60 or fewer staff. Dublin-born Ainscough acknowledged the financial difficulties last Monday, confirming delayed payment of wages to players and endeavouring to ensure the club can complete the campaign due to end on November 1st when facing Loud neighbours Drogheda United. So yeah, look, as I said there, it's worrying times for Dundalk Football Club. The fact that the club could go out of business. It's really sad considering you look back at 2015 and they were in the Europa League under Stephen Kenny. Stephen Kenny then became the Ireland manager. And after that, of course, I went to the under 21s. But because of that run, because of so many of those iconic players that you think of within the League of Ireland, Sean Gannon, Dane Massey, Gary Rogers, David Macmillan, there's a lot of players there. Kieran Kilduff, you think of that team. Robbie Benson. I could go on, but you know what I mean. This Andy Boyle, who went on to play for Preston afterwards, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of history there with Dundalk Football Club, as we all know, as well. And for them to go out of business would be a disaster for Irish football, considering people will be talking about, Dundalk and their run back then and the fact that they're out of business. It would be a terrible look on Irish football if Dundalk are to go out of business, if the reports are true, and it seems like it are, because there's a lot of people coming out, really reliable journalists who are worried about the situation now, and it's just not a nice situation to read about and hear about, especially if we covered the League of Ireland and we're at games a lot. And the fans of Dundalk are brilliant. They're passionate. They get behind their team. It's a town that's built on a football club like that. And when the team is doing well, the club is bouncing as well. So it's really, really sad to hear that they're going through these issues at the moment. And you'd hope that somebody can come along and rescue them, and that they still have a functioning club going forward, because nobody wants to see that. Well, there might be rival fans and stuff like that, but for the greater good of the League of Ireland and for clubs, we don't want to see clubs dying and going out of business. And that's what looks like is going to happen here. And players' contracts, and there's people going to lose jobs if that's the case, and people have to laugh about that. Then you want to get your head checked, because it's just really not a nice situation to see anybody in. So I'm hoping, praying that we can get something sorted regarding the ownership there of Dundalk Football Club, and that they can save the debt, because as I said, there's a lot of good people who support the club, a lot of good people up around Dundalk itself, and for a club like that what has so much history to be going through such a crisis right now it's really, really sad, and it's really hard to hear about and listen to those situations like that. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about it other than to be sad for the club. And tomorrow's going to be telling in terms of what's going to happen to Dundalk Football Club. So from me anyway, here at the channel, that I hope to God that someone can come in and help the club going forward. But this has been this week in Irish football. Sorry to end that on a bad note, but that's unfortunately the way things are headed right now. So let me know what you think in the comments on anything I discussed, and get involved, and I'll speak to you all. I'll be back same time again next week.